Information from the first public UFO hearing in more than 50 years. Today, Pentagon officials told a House panel there are now more than 400 reports from military personnel of possible encounters with UFOs. ABC 10 News reporter Rachel Bianco is joining us. And Rachel, this is a significant increase from the sightings tracked in a major report released just last year.
Derek, it's an increase of roughly triple the number that they thought it was, and some of those sightings were reported right off our coast, but today they still remain a mystery.
Whoa, it's getting close.
You're listening to stunned Navy pilots off the coast of California back in 2015. Former Navy pilot Ryan Graves told ABC News the encounters with the mysterious objects became almost routine.
We were seeing them nearly every day that we were flying.
Enter stage left, the tic-tac.
Retired Navy Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich was off the coast of San Diego back in 2004 when she saw what she says looked like a tic-tac before it disappeared.
Jumped from spot to spot and tumbled around in a way that was unpredictable.
Nearly 20 years of analysis later, Dietrich still doesn't know what she saw, but she wants to encourage others to come forward.
I'm trying to reduce the stigma for other aircrew so that if they see something or when they see something, they'll say something, and that they will not feel embarrassed or ashamed to make the reports.
At Tuesday's hearing on Capitol Hill, intelligence officials revealed since 2004 there have been roughly 400 reports of mysterious encounters by pilots or unidentified aerial phenomena. Pentagon officials say the military has never fired missiles at a UFO, and there is still no government confirmation of extraterrestrial life. They announced a new task force to coordinate data collection. Lawmakers from both parties say UFOs are a national security concern.
The inability to understand objects in our sensitive operating areas is tantamount to an intelligence failure.
Intelligence officials have only offered a definitive explanation for one of the encounters. They say one video was a distortion caused by light passing through night vision goggles. Reporting live along the Embarcadero, Rachel Bianco, ABC 10 News.
Thank you, Rachel. Today, a funeral service was held for Bishop Robert Braum. He served as Bishop of San Diego's Catholic Diocese from 1990 until 2013. ABC 10 News anchor Vanessa Van Hefty was at the service today. She shows us how other members of the Catholic community are celebrating his life and legacy.
A funeral mass to celebrate the life of Bishop Robert Braum, who died at his home last week at 83 years old. His brother David says he left nothing undone.
How he could listen. All the things that go into being a good pastor, he accomplished those things. And we're so proud to claim him as part of our family because he left a legacy. He left a heritage.
Braum says his brother found prison ministry the most fulfilling in retirement. A former incarcerated man reached out after hearing the news of the bishop's death.
He was more of a father to them than their fathers had ever been. How can you actually do more than that? You really can't.
Braum made pastoral visits 5 times to all of the 100 parishes. He also built churches and schools, Cathedral Catholic and Mater Dei high schools.
Bishop Robert was really important and critical to our school because he founded it in 2007. And you know, every time we have Mass in our prayer intentions, the last one is always that we pray for our Bishop Robert.
More than 100 priests from the diocese paid respects, calling him a humble, down-to-earth man. His favorite expression, never more poignant.
The last expression I'll share with you is another favorite of his. If heaven's so great, why wait? He meant it. It wasn't a joke.
Vanessa Van Hefty, ABC 10 News.
Bishop Braum also navigated the diocese through turbulent times in 2002 with the Catholic sex abuse scandal, helping to develop policies to keep children safe and hold abusers accountable.
SDGE wants to raise rates again.
I mean, at this point, it's just an ongoing fleecing.
Customers are upset, while the company says this latest rate hike will be worth the money.
And one of San Diego's most anticipated restaurants is putting a twist on Vietnamese cuisine, what the head chef hopes the customers will walk away with after dining at Kingfisher.
And from sunny skies this afternoon to clouds overnight, I'll show you when temperatures will be heating up this week. ABC 10 News is back in 90 seconds.
Today, the FDA granted emergency use authorization for a booster dose of Pfizer's COVID-19 vaccine for children ages 5 to 11. The agency says children in this age group can get their third shot at least 5 months after their 2 primary vaccines. Pfizer says the third dose raised Omicron-fighting antibodies by 36 times for those children. The matter now goes to the CDC. Nestle is stepping up its game to help parents in search of baby formula. The company is loading up planes of formula in the Netherlands and Switzerland headed for the U.S. They are focused on 2 kinds right now: Gerber Good Start Extensive HA Alphamino. Nestle says that they serve a critical medical purpose because they're for babies with cow's milk protein allergies. Nestle was already importing both of these formulas, but now it's expediting the shipments.
San Diegans are already paying some of the highest electricity rates in the nation, and SDGE is proposing to raise them even more. ABC 10 News reporter John Horn explains why the utility says it'll be worth it.
SDGE says the rate increases will fund a series of projects to help California meet its climate goals and reduce the risk of wildfires. But some ratepayers aren't buying.
I mean, at this point, it's just an ongoing fleecing of San Diego families.
Nicole Capert's had strong words for the budget proposal SDGE submitted to the state this week. If approved, come 2024, the average ratepayer would see electric bills go up $9 a month and gas $9.60 over 2023 rates.
It is a black hole, this whole rate making process, and certainly a black hole to any average San Diego family member.
SDGE can't profit off electricity itself, but it can make money off infrastructure projects the state approves. In this case, it's proposing, among other things, to expand electric vehicle charging infrastructure, modernize the grid, harden 590 miles of power lines to reduce wildfire risk, and strengthen cybersecurity.
What this proposal is really about is, again, investing in a grid that can empower the clean energy transition.
Utility spokesman Scott Kreider didn't say how much of the proposed increase would go to the bottom line, despite parent company Sempra reporting record profits this year.
You know, we have some aging infrastructure, and whether that's natural gas pipelines or on the electric side, we want to make sure that we've got a world-class grid, we've got the reliability that our customers have come to expect.
The approval process could take up to 18 months. John Horn, ABC 10 News.
This 10 News Pinpoint Weather Report is sponsored by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air. Nobody wows clients like we do.
Mild week for a lot of people, but those deserts are heating up, Angelica.
That's right. In the deserts, we actually have elevated fire danger, and that's probably the one thing we have to watch out this week. Also, low clouds as the marine layer rolls in, but we'll show you and we'll time it out hour by hour. Right now, it is picture perfect, literally. Look at that shot. You can take that and just send it as a postcard, and I'm sure anyone would love it. 63 degrees in San Diego. The winds are coming out of the south-southwest, so a bit of a turn in the wind direction, but still that onshore flow is keeping things relatively cool, of course, in relation to what we experienced over the weekend. The numbers averaging 1 to 5 degrees cooler than just 24 hours ago. And the temperatures are comfortable in the 60s right now in Escondido, 69 degrees, 72 in Ramona, 69 Alpine. If you're in Kearney Mesa, 66, 64 National City, and 62 in Chula Vista. Again, that westerly wind pattern is going to continue, and so will the gusty winds that remain in the mountains. But it's actually not as bad as yesterday. We're expecting the winds to maybe average between 30 45 miles per hour tonight, and then the winds will subside. It will turn breezy tomorrow, but it won't be as windy. The winds could be a concern again Thursday and Friday as the temperatures will start to go back up. So looking closely at the marine layer, there could be a touch of drizzle. The marine layer is getting stronger, or it's deepening, allowing for those clouds to become more saturated in nature. And of course, as a result, you start getting a little bit of that moisture, which is beneficial for the county especially for coastal communities, for vegetation, and for the local areas. We look at the hourly breakdown. Temperatures will be in the 50s with clouds overnight, clouds into tomorrow morning, and then a mix of both in the afternoon, making it picture perfect and comfortable. This is the kind of weather you want in the springtime. Temperatures will average in the mid-50s in our inland communities all the way through 7 a.m. with a mix of clouds and sunshine. Now, as we break it down even more in our 7-day forecast, you'll notice the numbers go up slightly, and I mean that. We go only a couple of degrees higher from Thursday to Saturday, and then from Saturday to next week. That's for the coast. Inland communities, it'll vary a little bit more, but still no drastic changes. Next week, we will have warmer conditions on Monday and Tuesday in the mid-80s, but for tomorrow, looking lovely at 79 degrees and 81 on Thursday. In our mountains, breezy in the afternoon, highs close to 80 degrees on Thursday. It heats up again Sunday into early next week. We'll have to monitor the winds and the heat as temperatures will start to go back up, but not much of a change for the deserts where we desperately need a cool down. As you can see, triple digits every single day, and elevated fire danger will continue due to the very dry conditions, the winds picking up each afternoon, and those very warm temperatures. Kimberly and Derek, back to you.
Yeah, that is warm. Thank you, Angelica. And now 10 News Time Saver Traffic Officer Jim Betancourt is joining us. You've got some tough spots out there this evening, Jim.
That's right. Southbound side of the 163 is going to be busy pretty much from the 805 all the way into the downtown area. But southbound side of the 805 slows from the 52 to Imperial because of an earlier crash in the area. I'm Officer Jim Betancourt with your 10 News Time Saver Traffic.
Thanks, Jim. You've got a chance to win an unforgettable concert experience here. ABC 10 News is giving away 2 tickets to either Luke Bryan or Katy Perry in Las Vegas. The winner will also get a 2-night stay at Resorts World Las Vegas. And so for a chance to win, just watch ABC 10 News at 6 a.m. this Thursday and listen for the cue to call. The 10th caller will win. It's believed to be one of the city's most haunted locations. Today, court was back in session at the Whaley House. Coming up, we'll explain the significance.
Skycam Views, sponsored by Carlsbad Solar.
For the first time in more than a century, court was back in session at San Diego's Whaley House. It's considered by many to be one of the city's most haunted locations.
ABC 10 News reporter Marie Cornell has more on the significance of this reopening.
The Whaley House is known to many as one of the most haunted houses in our area. The house and the family who built it and lived in it play a huge role in the history of San Diego.
All rise.
A history that's being revisited Tuesday morning as the Whaley courtroom reopens to the public for the first time in more than a century. Whaley House Operations Manager Victor Santana explains its significance.
Well, it's a big part of San Diego history. You know, this was the second courthouse before everything changed over to downtown San Diego, Newtown as it was known back then.
And to celebrate this important piece of San Diego history, the Honorable Richard Whitney presided over the cases heard in that courtroom.
There's a real kind of a vibe sitting here, almost like there was a lot of history that was conducted in this courtroom. Old Town, when this court was active between about 1868 and 1871, was a pretty rugged town. Some of the judges would ride down 3 or 4 days from Los Angeles on horseback. So my commute was a little bit easier today.
And while there haven't been any reports about any sightings or unusual encounters this morning, Judge Whitney says either way, all court rules apply and anyone can enter.
Everybody's welcome, whether they're heaven-bound or earthbound. It's an open courtroom.
And in case you're wondering, these cases were already on the docket today. All of the parties involved were asked if they were okay moving it to the Whaley House. Reporting from Old Town, Marie Cornell, ABC 10 News.
The San Diego woman previously convicted of killing her husband is now talking about the DA's decision to drop the case against her.
The ultimate takeaway is it's a huge relief.
How Jane Dorotic plans to begin her new journey.
And in just a few weeks, street vendors will need a permit to operate in San Diego, why some claim they are being unfairly targeted.
It's time for an ABC 10 News Voter Fast Fact. You still have time to register for the June 7th primary. You can register online at registertovote.ca.gov by May 23rd. If you missed the deadline, you can still register conditionally and cast a provisional ballot by visiting the Registrar of Voters office through Election Day. Once your information is confirmed, your registration will be activated and your vote will count. For more information on this and more voter fast facts, go to 10news.com/vote.
ABC 10 News at 5 starts now.
Of course, I'm relieved that all of it is over, and now I, for the first time in 22 years, can determine my future. That's a huge relief.
A 22-year-old murder case against a Valley Center woman officially dropped by the DA's office this week. Jane Dorotic was originally convicted of killing her husband, Robert.
ABC 10 News reporter Mimi Alcala spoke with Dorotic and her attorney and walks us through the last 2 decades.
More than 2 decades of living a nightmare finally over for 75-year-old Jane Dorotic as a murder case against her was dismissed.
The ultimate takeaway is it's a huge relief and a continued belief that there's something very wrong with this criminal justice system that needs to be fixed.
In 2001, she was convicted of killing her husband, Robert. His body was found bludgeoned in a wooded area near their Valley Center home a year earlier. Prosecutors said tire tracks found nearby matched those of the family's truck.
The truth hasn't been found.
That was Dorotic after being convicted.
I spent more than 20 years behind bars.
Then in 2020, a judge reversed the original conviction because of new evidence, but a new jury trial was granted shortly after, a trial that was set to begin this week. But instead, prosecutors filed a motion to dismiss the case, and it was dropped. In a statement, the DA's office said in part, after litigating the pretrial motions in a fair and complete hearing and reviewing the court's subsequent rulings on admissible evidence and in particular the elimination of key tire track evidence, we have concluded we can no longer ethically proceed with the prosecution of this defendant because the evidence is now insufficient to prove guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. Paula Mitchell, the legal director of Loyola Law School's Project for the Innocent, took on Dorotic's case in 2015. She says DNA testing revealed new evidence, including another person's DNA found under Robert Dorotic's fingernails.
We just started looking very, very carefully at the forensic evidence that was presented against her at trial. And it was just incredible how poorly it was done. The more we dug, the more we found.
As Dorotic begins her new journey, she hopes to spend time with loved ones and continue fighting for those trying to prove their innocence.
What's on my mind is going and visiting my daughter in Florida, continuing the work, throughout the prison system. I did a lot of advocacy work and became a member of the California Coalition of Women Prisoners. And it just seems more important than ever to continue that work. So that's really what I want to do.
Mimi Alcala, ABC 10 News.
After years of debate, San Diego will have new regulations on short-term rentals. The new law will put a cap on how much San Diego's housing can be used for short-term rentals. It's expected to cut the number of existing rentals in half. There are also new restrictions on how the rentals can operate. There will be a citywide lottery for short-term rental permits later this year. Street vendors in San Diego have mixed emotions about a new ordinance that will require them to get a permit to operate. It goes into effect in just a few weeks. And today, the City Council voted to make those permits $38 for the first year. ABC 10 News reporter Sierra Encinas shows us why some say this has been a long time coming, while others think it's intended to hurt many who are barely getting by.
In June, the vendors you see behind me here at Mission Beach will need a permit to operate their small businesses. Some vendors I spoke to say it's a good thing. Others say it's not. All have questions about the ordinance. Every morning, vendors set up on Mission Beach. It's a way of life for many in San Diego.
What do you do?
Bezaleel has been drawing caricatures of people for 2 years.
It's fun.
He and other vendors are now facing more regulations. The City Council passed an ordinance telling vendors they'll need to pay for a permit to sell, can only operate in specific zones, and will only be able to sell at certain times.
It's a win-win situation. It's a win for the vendors, it's a win for the city, and it's a win to keep our parks and our beaches open to all.
San Diego City Council member Jennifer Campbell introduced the measure that passed in March.
There's a whole educational process as well as licensing, again, paying tax, having their state license, etc.
Bezalel says he likes the ordinance because it gives order.
They got to obey the laws of the land, so if that's what they want to get, if I have to get that, then I just have to get it.
Those without a permit could face a fine up to $1,000 and even have their equipment impounded. But the San Diego Immigrant Rights Consortium says it questions the underlying motivation and intent of the ordinance. The group asks why the cost to enforce a new ordinance is millions of dollars in the upcoming city budget. $2.3 million is allotted for impounding and storing violators' equipment.
So when we see that a big part of the budget is actually going to enforcement, and not only enforcement but also in the confiscation of equipment, we believe that this is going to negatively affect, predominantly people of color.
The ordinance goes into effect June 1st. At Mission Beach, Sierra Encinas, ABC 10 News.
One of the most highly anticipated San Diego City Council races this year is in District 6. Current council member Chris Cade is being termed out. Here's an in-depth look at who's running to replace him. The 6th district includes communities like Kearny Mesa, Mira Mesa, Sorrento Valley, and University City. It became more left-leaning with a larger Asian population after it was redrawn last year. There are 3 candidates in this race: County Planning Commissioner Tommy Howe, Nonprofit Arts Director Kent Lee, and Special Education Assistant Jane Glasson. Howe, who ran against Kate in the last election, says his top 2 priorities are fixing the streets and more affordable housing.
This is an area of the city that has really been neglected, and you see that most prominently in the deferred maintenance with so many of our streets and roads, broken streets and roads that have to be rebuilt.
Meantime, Lee's priorities align somewhat with Howe's. He says his top issue is what he calls housing attainability. Lee is also putting a spotlight on government services, including fixing roads. He wants the district to become a destination spot for San Diegans.
The city recently labeled the Convoy District as sort of a cultural district within San Diego, and that it has some of the biggest opportunities we have looking forward in terms of building really a vibrant residential and commercial district.
The lone Republican in this race is Glasson. She says public safety, including adding more police officers and fixing the streets, are her biggest issues.
Fixing streets, definitely. Repaving streets would be great. I'm most familiar with Mira Mesa, where I live, and there are streets like Gold Coast and Jade Coast and Parkdale that are really beat up.
So if one of the Democrats, Howe or Lee, win, San Diego would have all Democrats on the city council.
A new study says a blood test to screen for prostate cancer is better than originally thought. The specific group of men seeing the most benefit. And more trouble for San Diego's new ambulance company. Team 10 uncovers why FALC could be facing hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines. And 10 News Time Saver Traffic with Officer Jim Betancourt. Jim?
Well, the westbound side of the 78 slows at Rancho Santa Fe. That's due to an earlier crash in the area. And the northbound side of the 5 slows through Carlsbad. I'm Officer Jim Betancourt with your 10 News Time Saver Traffic.
Staying Healthy is sponsored by Ronald McDonald House Charities of San Diego.
A blood test for prostate cancer is better than expected at preventing deaths, especially among black men. A new study found blood testing and subsequent treatment prevented 1 death for every 11 to 14 men diagnosed. For black men, it prevented 1 death for every 8 to 12 men diagnosed. Experts hope this convinces more people to get tested. Prostate cancer is the 2nd deadliest cancer among American men.
And new information this afternoon, San Diego's new ambulance company, FALC, could be facing hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines. Team 10 investigator Melissa Masiha has been on top of this story for the last several months, and the city said the company still isn't meeting some requirements. She is joining us now. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, Kim. And yeah, that is their latest update. A city staff report said overall staffing hours remain below contract requirements, and now we're learning just how much FALC could pay.
More than $457,000. That's the penalty assessed against FALC. According to this document released Tuesday from San Diego Fire Rescue, the fines are for not meeting required response times from December to March. The total penalty assessed was actually more than $2.3 million, but about $1.9 million was waived because of the pandemic. Since FALC took over in late November, there have been questions about its service.
FALC has been staffing below contracted requirements.
FALC stated they would be ready on day one and fully staffed.
But the department said they were not ready. The report also showed FALC is still below the 900 monthly median paramedic hours required. In April, it was at 828 hours. As of May 14th, that number was at 767. When it comes to the community where FALC paramedic-staffed ambulances were shut down most often in March and April, Encanto ranks the highest at 38% of the time. A San Diego Fire spokesperson said they did not want to comment publicly before Wednesday's committee meeting. When I asked FALC about its staffing, the company spokesperson told me cities across the U.S. are facing EMS staffing challenges amid the national paramedic shortage, and San Diego is no exception. He said they are continuing vigorous recruiting efforts, paying double time, plus $250 shift bonuses.
FALC told me they have delivered on the all-new fleet of 66 ambulances they promised. The company said they are currently meeting all response time requirements in all zones for all priorities. That committee meeting is tomorrow. Melissa Masiha, Team 10.
One of San Diego's most anticipated restaurants is putting a twist on Vietnamese cuisine.
It's different than what anybody else is doing right now, and it's rooted and it's real.
Coming up, what the head chef hopes customers will walk away with after dining at Kingfisher. A local chef is putting the spotlight on Vietnamese cuisine at a new San Diego restaurant.
It's called Kingfisher. In honor of Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month, ABC 10 News anchor Lindsay Pena shows us what sets this restaurant apart from others.